Thank you very much, Salam Jibril, for that background. We have three guests with us in the studios, all PDP stalwarts, to discuss issues around the PDP presidential campaign. Let's welcome a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Dr. Baraka Sani. Dr. Baraka Sani is, of course, a former commissioner for agriculture and natural resources in Kano State. He's also a former senior special assistant to the president on agriculture and PDP stalwart, and currently director support groups for PDP presidential campaign. Dr. Baraka, we're glad to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
Also here with us in the studios is another regular guest now on Good Morning Nigeria, the Commissioner for Information in Delta State, Honorable Charles Aniago, who is also the PDP presidential candidate's spokesperson. Honorable Aniago, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, viewers.
And also joining us is Frank Shaibu, Special Assistant to Atiku Abubakar on Public Communication. It's a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria, Frank.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome.
All right, lady and gentlemen, once again, it's our pleasure to have you. This is one in our series of interactions with the various campaign councils of the political parties. We already had one with the APC, and so this week and today we are having this with the PDP. But let me begin by asking this question. Yes, we know the campaigns have formally been flagged off. According to the INEC timetable, that was on the 28th of September. And your party has also launched its campaign in Uyo, that's the capital of Akwa Ibom State. But in terms of the optics and what the members of the public and ultimately the electorate are hearing and getting to see, would be issues still around a great deal of a sense of disunity that, oh, some persons are still dissatisfied. Yes, on Wike, continues to press ahead with what he's saying, along with the other governors who are with him. I don't want to say rebel governors. But it appears that you have not quite gained altitude yet. You're climbing, but it looks a bit challenging. What is happening? Dr. Baraka, let's begin with you.
Well, good morning, Nigerians. One thing I want people to understand is that there will always be, give and take situation, and especially in a democratic system, these things are bound to happen. It's nothing out of the usual. And for PDP, it's a very big party. Obviously, when you have a large family, you will always tend to be having issues here and there. But all I know is that our leadership is working very hard to make sure that everyone comes back and everyone is carried along. You also heard from some of those that have issues. They say they cannot do anything else than to support their party, but they just want to make their issues heard, clear, and then resolved. So along the way, I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of the ladder to make sure that everything is sorted out, and then we are all back on one ship. Apart from that, there are other interests. It's just that the media is also playing its own role, because some of the issues are not as big as the media portrays them to be. And they exist virtually in most of the big parties. When you don't see these issues, it means the party is a small party. But a big party like the People's Democratic Party, if this doesn't happen, then people are not interested in the party. The higher the interest, the higher the stakes, the more, crisis, the more misunderstandings you have, because everybody wants to be on the ship. And to be on the ship, you need some issues to be resolved so that everybody will be carried along. At the end of the day, PDP is really blessed to have a matured presidential candidate, a father to all, a veteran who understands the working of a democracy and who is keen in seeing that all his children are carried on the ship that will sail to success. And by the grace of God, PDP will get there. Nigerians should just be patient.
Okay.
Once again, good morning, Nigeria.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Baraka. You said everybody needs to be on that ship, and I think that's what the PDP chairman also said at the flag off in Uyo. And then, if I may just throw it to, Charles Aniago here, and then with this quote from IU, the PDP chairman, and then linking it to what Baraka Jose. He said the PDP trend has started moving, and she alluded to that very much. We are really moving, but he said we are moving slowly, so that those who are yet to be on board will join us on the train. That slowly is the issue here. You're moving slowly. Do you think you have all the time to keep moving slowly as the days, or rather the minutes and the hours tick by?
Well, let me say that if what my sister, Dr. Baraka, said were to be bull or pounded yam, you will not need to look for any soup to swallow it, because she has been able to put it the way it should. And I thought you will even commend our party for being the only party that have officially flagged up campaigns. We scored a whole lot of first in this whole process. Right from when the issue of the primary started, up to when we needed to, of course, nominate a candidate, up to the time that we needed to produce a vice presidential running mate, up to the time that we needed to kick up our campaign, including setting up our campaign council. All the other political parties have yet to even begin, even as we speak. And the party that have started and is moving slowly and steadily need to be commended. Having said that, I want to say that the wheel of democracy usually grinds slowly for the purpose of accommodating the very plural views, which is an ingredient in any democratic setting. She has rightly mentioned the fact that when you are big, just like when the head is big, according to Abiola, certainly if you have a headache, it will also be a big headache, because it has to be in a very big box, and that is the head. And so the party is a party that is available in all the wards in this country. And if it is available in all the wards in this country, you expect that there are different interests that will also, of course, emanate from these different wards. Individuals with their own different backgrounds. And so the train, like our national chairman rightly mentioned, have left the station, but we are not moving with that kind of speed that you expect us to, because we assume that once we need to match any brake, we easily apply the brake so that those who are yet to board that train can easily come in without having to sustain injury. Because to jump into a fast-moving train may likely trigger some casualty, and we don't want such casualty. And as we continue to move very, very slowly, we are quite happy that we're moving steadily. You saw what happened. I'm sure you saw what happened, at least from your visuals, what happened in Kaduna yesterday. It's actually surpassed the kind of crowd we saw in Akwa Ibom. The only difference is that when you come out of that stadium, the Ranchers Beach Stadium, you see almost more than 1 kilometer from that particular venue, number of persons who are party supporters. Even if there was an attempt to want to disrupt that, our people resisted it by staying put, because they were very much willing to listen to the presidential candidate. So we are quite comfortable with where we are. We want, by the grace of God, to believe and hope that in the course of time, our brothers and other leaders who have not actually come on board, we certainly see the need to do so. One beautiful thing, like Dr. Barakat also mentioned, is that they have insisted that they will work for their party. And since the party is the vehicle, it means the vehicle is still very much alive to be able to carry the passengers to their destination. The only thing we need is the cooperation to support the driver so that he drives very smoothly.
Thank you very much, Charles. Frank, let's also have your take on this. Do you think that the activities and disposition of Governor Wike and some of his colleagues are a distraction from the message and messaging that the PDP candidate would like, of course, to pass on to the electorate at this time? Because there's no denying that, I mean, Wike keeps speaking, and then the other governors, keep standing by him, and so on and so on. Is it a distraction?
Far from it. Far from it. And that's why I want to align clearly with my colleagues here, Dr. Baraka and Charles. And like Charles, illustrated clearly. First off, you have to commend our vehicle that has taken off. And now look at those with knocked engines, who all they talk about is to sit in the corner of their bedroom and look and pick holes in whatever step we take, and make conjectures as well. But you see, in a democracy, particularly in a growing democracy like that of Nigeria, this is to be expected. When a man aspires for the biggest office in the land, particularly the office of president, some persons have their aspirations buried in his own ambition. So, and if in the course of that project, presidential project, or aspiration as it were, the fact that, okay, somehow he did not make it by getting the ticket, obviously those around him will feel agitated because their ambition obviously had been extinguished in the course of that. So we can understand this. And you know that a bitter heart is not capable of charity. So you don't expect him to, you don't expect those around him, that you may consider as a distraction. You don't expect them to be, to be jumping around and giving a full clap, a whole hug. It will take time to heal. And we expect that, like in the analogy of Charles, as the train is moving slowly and gradually, we expect that healing will take place within that period, and they'll jump on the ship. The PDP is a big family. The beautiful thing is that what has happened, or what is happening, is the fact that some family members have left the bedroom to come to stay in the sitting room. They have not left the house. So they are still under the big umbrella. They are still in the party. So they are not a distraction. Instead, what that does for us is that it revs up our capacity. It energizes us to say, look, we have to put the right things in place, cross the T's, dot the I's, and keep selling our message of rescuing Nigerians from maladministration, our message of fixing all the things that have gone bad in this country, and putting food on the table for the common man.
I'm sorry, Nadabo. The analogy is an interesting one. When you say some of the members of the party have left the bedroom and they are now in the sitting room, they haven't left the house. I know we have had a conversation around this on Good Morning Nigeria, and Charles was also part of that conversation. But some of these family members who are in the sitting room, they are saying that the chef in the kitchen should go, that they don't like the food that is likely to prepare, that the chef should leave the kitchen, and the kitchen is part of the house. That, but Charles was talking about pounded yam, the example of pounded yam that Dr. Baraka would have prepared without soup. They say the chef in the kitchen should go.
And I'll tell you something. Yeah. Let me tell you something very clearly here. You see, sometimes I believe Nigeria, I see Nigeria as a big picture, and that's what the presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, sees Nigeria as a pan-Nigerian candidate. He sees Nigeria as one big picture. And we believe that we should use our dynamic diversity as a unifying factor. Time has gone past for a country like Nigeria to begin to think of a president or electing people based on geography. The presidential candidate, if you look at the complaints coming from our brothers within the party, basically, that's why I don't want to spend so much time, discussing that. But since you have brought me back there, let me take a look at this. Let me give you this analogy clearly. When you want to board a flight from Lagos to Abuja, or you want to board a flight from Abuja to Heathrow, I am not sure you ask the airline the tribe or the language the pilot speaks. You don't know who the pilot is. You don't know where he comes from. The president of a country is like that pilot. So the issue of, the man who is cooking the food in the kitchen, who is the national chairman of the party. Of course, the national chairman of the party was there before the primary election. And at the time the primary elections were conducted, nobody complained about where he came from. So if at this point you now want to remove the captain of a team based on geography, why not wait till when we win the Champions League? The Champions League is coming up in February, which is the presidential election. After that, you can change the captainship. You can take the captain's ban from him. So the idea is, and I'm sure that they know that we've seen this play out multiple times. It happened during Jonathan. It happened in other elections. Ahmad Ali was chairman of our party at some point in time. And we know what transpired. So you see, this thing should be based. The larger interest of the Nigerian people should be uppermost on our mind. It's not just about PDP. Atiku is not aspiring to be president of the PDP. He's aspiring to be president of Nigeria. And for those who make allusions to the fact that, President Muhammadu Buhari is leaving office as a northerner, and as such, an Atiku cannot occupy office as another northerner, and you now have the national chairman of the northern descent in office. No, the question is, it does not follow. The question is, we had Uche Secondus, who was national chairman of our party. He was from the South-South geopolitical zone, particularly from even Rivers State at that point. But some interests in a way to, to balance their aspiration, made sure that he was eased out of office for the emergence of a national chairman from the northern descent, because based on their calculation and their permutations, they expected that, oh, I'm going to emerge. You understand? So we know these things. And a lot of water has passed under the bridge. Elections have been conducted. The primary election has been conducted. The winner has emerged. Unlike my brother, Governor Wike, said, look, he has no problem with the candidature of His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. He has no problem with the nomination of vice presidential candidate, our own Governor Ifeanyi Okowa. All the interest is the national chairman. Fine, we don't have a problem with that. But then what does the law say? We don't want to be dragged. What would have been a major distraction is if our presidential candidate were not a Democrat, if he were a dictator, he would have simply said, look, you go and sit down. No. He said, look, let the rule of law. You see, there are laws guiding this thing. Our constitution is very clear. Yes.
Frank, thank you so much. That's a good elucidation. But all the same, we need to really, sort of interrogate your earlier statement talking about the comparison you made, the analogy of the pilot and those in the plane and the rest of them.
Yes.
In most climes, in other climes apart from Nigeria and African countries in third world, that one may not hold so much, given the fact that questions have been asked before the pilot gets into the cockpit. And of course, once he's there, that's the end of the story now. You forget about who. If you didn't come to ask the question before then, join and let's go. But before he gets to the cockpit, questions have been asked, and that's the stage.
I've been to 102 nations of the world. I've never asked where the pilot comes from. I have never asked, and I've never seen people ask.
Now, that being the case,
Yes.
Baraka, let's look at that seriously and then look at it very well. We cannot really, say that, the issue of Wike can be just waved away because discussions and dialogues are going on. There are strong voices from other party members too, who are saying that the situation at the moment may not really be good for the party as it progresses this way. Although it's heartwarming to know that, Wike himself has accepted the fact that he's not going to leave the party. But the distractions are still there. People keep asking questions, then what's happening? Where are we headed? What does he want? What the PDP wants? These are questions very pertinent indeed that needs answers. And campaigns are going. People that ask these questions are those who are looking for their votes. And they really need answers. So how do you respond to that?
Well, sincerely speaking, I think for me, Nigerians should look at the quality and product that PDP is selling to them in the person of Atiku Abubakar. This other issue is our own internal problem, because in a family, that is it. One time, let me just give you an instance. During our campaign days in Kano, there was a time that we were on the podium and my leader's house was on fire. It was burning, but nobody knew what was happening. On the one side, he was tackling the fire issue with the fire brigade while he was, campaigning and people clapping with people. So this is PDP's internal problems, which every other party has. Because PDP is very big, PDP is the biggest party, PDP has the highest stake. That's why all eyes are on PDP. But for me, I think it's like prognosing. Nigerians are doing amebo and the press is helping them to sniff into our house. This is our internal problem. And amebo is not good. Even in religion, if you are not part of something, don't poke your nose. It's our internal problem, and our Father is here, and by the grace of God, he will resolve it. If they see, wait, let me tell you, if our presidential candidate has come out to tell Nigerians that he will move a bad situation to worse, then Nigerians will be worried. But my own presidential candidate has told Nigerians, I don't think in the whole country there is any single presidential candidate that has this policy document to tell Nigerians what he has on the line for them. This is our policy document. No Nigerian presidential candidate has this to show. None. So Nigerians should be bothered more about this policy document as it affects them. Our presidential candidate has spelled out everything that Nigeria needs. Then the thing that should concern Nigerians is, can he do it? And the answer is yes. One, he is talking about security and unity. Without unity, we can get nowhere. How do we achieve unity? Equity, justice, fairness, and coming together and becoming, he is a pan-Nigerian. That's one interest that Nigerians should look at. Secondly, we have, you know, he has spoken about security. Security includes food security, and then physical, the military one that we are looking for in terms of defending the territorial integrity of Nigeria. Can he do it? The answer is yes, because he has an experience already. And now, from his actions, you can see he has a roadmap, and it is all in this policy document. The third aspect, he's talking about economy. Can he do it? Yes, because he's a private sector person as well. He has more than 25,000 jobs he has given to the young ones. Even in the Niger Delta, Atiku Abubakar is one of the highest employers of labor apart from the federal government. What else are you looking for? Then if you talk about the regulation, that is devolution of power, Atiku Abubakar believes in strengthening the federating units and then making the federal government strong enough to supervise the federating unit and provide the umbrella under which every Nigerian can come in, being reassured that his country is growing, his country's territorial integrity is protected, his country's economy is prosperous, and so on and so forth. But when we have internal wranglings, the news should not divert Nigerians' attention to be thinking, what has it got to benefit them if we resolve our internal issues, or if somebody is scratched, or if somebody's leg is swollen inside our house? We have our doctors, we have our nurses, we have our hospitals. So if our presidential candidate was somebody who has not gotten this policy document, then Nigerians have everything to worry about. If our presidential candidate has issues about corruption, then Nigerians should be worried about. If our presidential candidate has not commenced his campaigns, then Nigerians have everything to worry about. If our presidential candidate is not a father and he's saying it is his own turn, a Milo count, then they know that this one is going to share somebody. We are not sharing anything. We want to work. And we, the foot soldiers, the infantry, are ready. We have rolled our sleeves. Nigerians should thank God.
Your sleeves are not rolled up.
You have
no, we are not.
My sleeve is rolled.
No, please don't.
You see?
Don't
So honestly, we should take away our mind from the internal wranglings of the PDP. They exist in every party. It's just that the parties are too small, too insignificant, too little, too unnecessarily small that you don't even need to look into their house. Our house is a mansion, a castle. Everybody is looking at the minaret up because it is high. So honestly, Nigerians are lucky to have the PDP and our presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar that is ready. No presidential candidate is ready. That's why you see they are all afraid to go out into the public and tell the public their policies because they don't have any. Even the presidential campaigns are not formed. Even the rallies are not ready. Nothing is ready.
Okay.
Only they want to move bad situation to worse.
All right, Dr. Baraka, thanks. You've raised a number of interesting points, and I'm sure our viewers who are out there, I mean, they may have their own sarcastic perspectives to some of the things that you have said. They will also be in support of what you have said. I mean, when you say it's a mansion, some persons are likely to be saying, Nadabo, oh, so there are some issues around housing allowance that some National Working Committee members got. But that's, of course, the internal matter of the PDP.
Internal matters.
Yes, you have said so. That's why we are leaving it within the precincts of the PDP.
The director support group.
Director support group, yes.
She just
so
want to
housing
more and more.
Housing allowance, some of them, they have returned them. I say, look, no, we don't have anything to do with it. But Charles, I mean, talking more seriously now. What does the PDP Presidential Campaign Council envisage as the likely issues that will frame the elections of February next year? I mean, you've been in the media for many decades, and what are the issues? I ask this question pointedly because in the past you said there are two big political parties in Nigeria. It then became PDP and APC, but 2023, from what the analysts are saying, we have 18 candidates, but we know that it's not business as usual. So what are the issues that the PDP Presidential Campaign Council has ahead of it?
Well, thank you very much. I want to also remind you that there are still only two big political parties in Nigeria. The difference between political parties and individuals, you recall when NSAS took place, it did not take place under a platform of any political party, but they were able to mobilize. So if you have two political parties doing party thing, and then you have the other group coming together to be able to agitate on a number of issues that affect all of us. And so I'm not trying to demean those who belong to this other group. But in terms of political parties, we still have two political parties where the parties are bigger than the contestants, but where in another case, the contestant is bigger than the political party is running on. So we needed to make that clear. Now on the issues are very well known to Nigerians, because today you don't need to tell a Nigerian that the money in his pocket or the word in his hand no longer have the value that they used to have. You don't need to tell a Nigerian today that we have become much more divided than we used to be, than we were before now. And the reason why even the noise you talk about in our political party is gaining the kind of traction is because we have gotten to a very low level where nobody trusts the other anymore. Ordinarily, why would anybody just go and begin to make so much noise about where the chairman comes from? I have always said that for me personally, I don't even believe in zoning. I believe that the job of the president is to be able to give everybody his or her fair share. Whether the president is my brother and is not able to perform, I would prefer that let that president not be my brother and let him perform. Because when he performs, I live a better life. Because I have said, if you recall the last time I came, I said, I am not too sure that the life of the average man in Daura has become so beautiful because Buhari is the president. It could be better even with a Jonathan. You recall the issue of the Almajiri educational system that taught the lives of a number of young ones in the north. Jonathan is not from the north, but he saw the need to do that. I need a president, even if you're from the north. Come and give me my due in the Niger Delta. Like she rightly mentioned, Atiku had a whole lot of businesses in the Niger Delta with a number of young ones from the Niger Delta gainfully employed, able to feed their families. I gave an example in another sister station yesterday that Atiku is just like Dangote, who is able to set up businesses everywhere in the country and then give jobs to those who can work, irrespective of where they come from. What the Nigerian needs the president to do is for the president to know that it's like that pilot, like my brother mentioned, who will take you to your destination. And the moment you get to your destination, what you are looking for has been solved. Unfortunately, these individuals who either because they want to gain something for themselves, always hide under sectional interest, either on the base of ethnicity or the base of geographical divide, because they believe that if you don't do it this way, it will not come to them, because ordinarily they are not qualified. What we need today is a pan-Nigerian president who, even if, let me tell you, even if Buhari's son wants to come out and say he wants to run for president, and I know he's capable of doing it, I don't want to care what his father did. I'll vote for him. I don't want to use the sin of his father to judge the son. So long as that president will come and do what a president needs to do to all of us. But when individuals come and begin to talk about, is he from the south? Is he from the north? Is he this? That is not what we need. We need somebody who will work. So these issues are very well known to us. And in the Presidential Council, they have agreed with the issues very well outlined by the presidential candidate, as well stated in that policy document called My Covenant with Nigerians, to be able to address 5 thematic areas, i.e. the need to bond together as a country so that we're able to address the mismanagement of our diversity by the ruling APC, and of course, which is at the center of it all. Every other thing that you see is symptomatic of that failure to address our diversity. Because once we're able to address it, it means that round pegs will certainly come into, find their way into round holes, while square pegs will, of course, fix into square holes. And beyond that, the need to return the jobs to our people. Our economy is in a very, very parallel situation, and it needs to be addressed. Atiku is looking in that direction. Good enough, he has a CEO mentality. Then the third one is the need for us to be able to, as a country, deal with issues of insecurity, such that wherever you live, you are able to sleep with not only your 2 eyes closed, but you can dream and dream beautifully and possibly snore at your own expense without having to be scared that you are losing any sleep. And then, of course, don't forget the issue of education, that there is a need for us to not only protect the future, but protect today. And for us to be able to do that, we need knowledge. And knowledge, most often than not, comes from education. And Atiku says so much will be done in that direction. And good enough, he has led by example. Today, he has the biggest private university in northern Nigeria. And he started that not even when he was holding any office. At the time he was just about to leave as the vice president, he saw the need to give education to a mass majority of Nigerians, not only even those in the north. And then, of course, lastly, of these 5 thematic areas is the need to devolve powers to the component units, because he believes that the states and the local government are much more closer to the people, that it shouldn't be the business of the federal government to begin to look into a small clinic in one small community where the president will never even visit. But that if you empower the local government and empower the states, they're able to address those issues because there are no federal people. We all belong to one community or one local government, and at the end of the day, before we now begin to come together as a federation. And so that being the case, Atiku, working with the Presidential Campaign Council, and of course in sync with the leadership of the party, is looking at how to add value to the life of the average Nigerian. Whether we like it or not, that value has been taken away, particularly in the last 7 years. And the need to return it is a journey that we must, by the grace of God, take very seriously. And in spite of the noise that is coming, some of them are allowed within the latitude of democratic conversation, and others that may go overboard, we can afford to ignore them and stay with Nigerians and on these issues, so that at the end of the day, we're able to deliver on a number of issues that were promised that we're going to be able to solve, and solve them very, very reasonably.
Okay, thank you so much, Charles. Frank, let me come back to you, and then interrogate much more what he said. Looking at Atiku, so the PDP's 5-point agenda, and then against the background of the fact that all these have not been so much new to the Nigerian populace, and not only Atiku anyway, but talking about education, water, security, and things like that have been there on the front burner of all politicians since independence. It's been there all through. Only for when the magnitude gets too high, then it becomes a talking point and it becomes an agenda for selling to the public, and that's how they can do it. Atiku has been, at the center of campaigns, and if not really being the head of the campaigns all through since 1999, has been contesting. And of course, has been coming out with this agenda, most of whom have been modernized and brought forth. Some have been changed, some have been, sort of molded or remolded. And here we are today still, 16 years on of PDP, just maybe 7 years of APC. Are we saying that there is going to be something new apart from what has been saying since 1999 to date?
Thank you. I'm excited that you said that some of his programs have been modernized, and that's to show you a man who has got capacity, and a man who has improved even on him, who has improved his own educational capacity. He went back to school after the last election. None of the presidential candidates, none of them, can boast of that. Nigeria, as we speak today, have about 20.2 million out-of-school children. That is about the population of countries like Burkina Faso, Mali. Out-of-school children.
Only.
First off, Atiku, being a CEO, a private sector person, private sector-driven person, did something unique that I'm exhilarated about. The fact that he is the only Nigerian out of government who has established what we call a global center for out-of-school children in Africa. That, as I speak with you, is not only functional, it is working and it is supportive of children who are out of school in not just northern Nigeria.
Where's the center?
It is located in the American University of Nigeria.
In Yola.
In Yola, yes. And we're drawing children. We're drawing children from the streets. I'm a part of that project. So I'm talking from a point of knowledge. Only recently, the American government even gave committed as much as $10 million to that project, because it's one initiative that has not been seen before by a single individual. That's someone who sees through the future. He sees through the lens that some persons don't see through their teacups. He sees something that others don't see.
What is the center all about, and how is this looking to realize this goal?
The center
Just tell
is
us some
simple.
more.
What the center, the first thing, what even happened, what even brought about the initiative of the center? He was taking a drive one day, sometime about 3-4 years ago. And I was privileged to be a part of that movement. And he broke protocol and asked the driver to stop. He said, every time I drive through this street in Yola, this particular point in Yola, I see school children. I see children of school age carrying a rope on their neck with a bowl in front of it and asking for people to drop money. So on this occasion, he wound down. And instead of dropping money, he called the child. what do you want? He said, money for food. You are hungry? He said, yes. Okay. I will not just give you money to feed you for your stomach, but I will give you something that will feed your mind. From that day, this children, he asked the security details and the protocol team to pick the children to come with him. Of course, those around the environment would resist because it was something that would look like a semblance of kidnapping. Until he had to alight from his car, interacted with them. And when they saw him, oh, it was the normal rankedede and hailings and all that. And that was how, in fact, some older people. From there, he held meetings, series of meetings with the community leaders, head of mosques, head of churches, and all that. By the grace of the Almighty, that grew into a big picture. And that was what gave birth to the Global Center for Out-of-School Children, where we now go all out to the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, not even limited to the north, to pick these children and do what we call a school, a feed to read initiative, because the Global Center for Out-of-School Children also encompasses what we call the feed to read initiative, where we feed the children who are out of school, teach them, prepare them, when you prop them, and they are able to, deliver on the basic lines in education. Basic lines, he gives them scholarship to now continue the education in his school. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now, for me, and for any discerning mind, that is something that is commendable. These are things that go unsung. We'll tell him, look, we need to celebrate this. He said, no, I don't do this I'm not doing this for the media. I am attacking something, because if we don't do this today, these children are supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow and the conscience of our society. And if we don't do this today, it will lead to the children, the young people, becoming frustrated in future. And such a situation will breed insecurity, inadequacy, coupled with lack of self-confidence, poor image perception, and an unhealthy identification.
Frank,
yes.
Thank you. We needed to drill into the center once you mentioned it.
Yes.
And I think that it's important, notable, that we also interrogate other aspects, because part of what we normally hear in terms of the hot air in campaigns is, we will do this, we will do that, we'll provide security, we will improve the economy. Now he's giving an example of out-of-school children. Let's decompose what your candidate has in terms of security. We've talked about out-of-school children. It just came by way of explanation. We have noted it. But in terms of security, we know that the insecurity in the country has been worrisome on occasion, even though lately the security agencies have gotten on top of it. There are all kinds of ideas that have been floated. Some talk about state police, others talk about tackling the macroeconomic challenges. What is it that the PDP will be offering the Nigerian electorate as its response, for instance, to the security challenges that the country is facing?
Well, the first thing I want to tell you is that a lot of people, when they hear about security, they believe in guns, grenades, machine guns, and so on. But actually, security begins from unity. Because once you are united, there will be trust. And when there is trust, security is automatically, safer with, trust and understanding. Because our military men are not spirits. They need the cooperation of the community for information so that they can be able to nip at the bud. Because most of the people committing the crimes are Nigerians. Sometimes, before you even talk about the intruders, people coming in from outside. So unity is very important. Atiku is a father to all Nigerians, and he intends to go about his, responsibilities by, embracing everybody as one and treating you based on competence and based on your ability to deliver. So that's one. The second aspect, PDP is also going to make sure that we give the security their specific needs. Most of these security outfits, when you ask them, they tell you they are not enough in number. They are under-resourced, the funding, the training, and so many other things. So you need to talk to them one-on-one to to each according to his needs. And then you talk about the numbers also. You see, the security, how many policemen, for instance, do we have in Nigeria? We have over 200 million Nigerians that are being policed with less than 1 million policemen. So you can see where the discrepancy is between their capacity. No matter how trained they are, they will not be able to give the security cover that we need because they are small in number. So that is also an aspect. And when you look at it, right now, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar is on a national tour. Apart from the rallies that you see, His Excellency has realized the fact that every region has its own problems and its own demands and its own preferences. And this he can only get when he goes to sit one-on-one with the stakeholders to listen from them. What is it that you want? Whatever they want, and according to the order of priority, will automatically fall within this 5 points agenda. So we are not going to apply a blanket policy. For instance, where the farmers in the north are talking about fertilizer, probably those in the Niger Delta are talking about pollution as number one, while those in the north are talking about maybe banditry. Maybe people in the Niger Delta are talking more about infrastructure, maybe the bridges and so on. So every region is going to be empowered based on their priorities within the confines of the policy framework. PDP is bringing new direction to the whole, governance, act of governance in Nigeria, in the sense that it is no longer these campaign promises. When you hear most presidential candidates telling you, we are going to provide you with security, we are going to give you education, now you come down to the level of asking, can you give us? Just like you had Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, our own presidential candidate, within this policy framework, he's a veteran. Most of the policy, the thematic areas he wants to, PDP wants to address, are areas that Atiku has been either as a stakeholder or because of his earlier experience. For instance, education, just like my colleague has just mentioned, I happen to be one of those on the governing board of the American University, and I know what Atiku is going through. That institute is not for profit, because every time he pumps in to support, he supports Chibok girls, he supports so many people in terms of scholarship, to the extent that you tend to wonder, is this for profit or is this a public school? Because his number one priority is to see how he can give back. Atiku became an orphan at a very early age. At a very early age, he has suffered. There is nothing he has not seen in terms of suffering as a small child. He was brought up eventually by his mother, and he bought a house for his mother as little as 15 years old, because he said he was tired of every day carrying her load together, changing places, because they didn't own a house. So that made him, to grow up empathic. The empathy in him is much that everything you see Atiku doing revolves around alleviation of suffering from the masses. When he established the microfinance bank, he made sure 80% of the loans went to women. And he attested to the fact that over 90% has been repaid. So women are very good, when it comes to loan repayment. Everything Atiku does has a reason. Like, he wants to be the president of Nigeria because he wants to be the bridge. When you read his story, you will know that he was drafted into politics by his mentor, late General Shehu Adua. And when they all came as young people, he told them that this is a battle we are going in, it's a struggle. Some of you might be alive to see the result, and some may not be. And of course, late Shehu Adua is not alive today, and the bridge is still yet to be completed. When you go to Adua Center, you will see a symbolic bridge that is uncompleted. He says there has to be unity between the north and the south, and that is the bridge that Atiku wants to build. Because the whole world, if you don't have unity, you cannot go anywhere. When you go out in the world, you want to be called a Nigerian, not a Hausa or not a Yoruba. I was at Arewa House during the policy dialogue when Atiku was asked, why should the North vote for you? Why do you want the North to vote for you? He didn't get up to tell them because I'm a Hausa Fulani. He told them that because he's a pan-Nigerian of northern origin, and he thinks that the North should look out for people who will be able to resolve the issues that are bedeviling the North, not based on them being Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa, no, but somebody, a pan-Nigerian who can accommodate everybody and yet resolve the issues. For instance, in the northern Nigeria, you can see today what we have, issues around Almajiri, issues around agriculture.
Dr. Baraka, you seem to be sounding as if you're on the podium. Left alone, you keep talking and talking about this very gentleman, of course, the PDP, and he keeps on going and on.
Because I want Nigerians to understand why they should vote for PDP, not because we are on the podium saying I will improve security. No, Nigerians should dig deeper.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
Yes, and that is why I answered you.
Above
your campaign rhetoric. Why should Nigerians vote for the PDP
Atiku.
and why should they vote for Atiku? They should vote for Atiku. That's why I said because he's an empathic leader and he is visionary. He sees beyond what we see today in terms of I am from the North or I am from the South. Atiku sees beyond that because he is a visionary leader, and that is what Nigeria needs.
Yes,
we want to see our integrity.
Yes, we are trying to break down the 5 points agenda and then see how he tries to address them. Looking at, my colleague asked you about security,
I told you
and
the
you
food
talked about
security,
and how it's going to be, how unity
and
can
I told
just be
you
part
about
of
the unity,
and unity and the rest of them.
Then the security outfits you can see, like the police now, you give them gun, you tell them to protect you. They are not addressed. Their pension is not properly addressed. Their training, they no longer have adequate training. I come from a military house. I know what is bedeviling, and I know what we used to experience then and what we are experiencing now. I feel so sorry. Our parents had one of the best times, and you could see the result. So Atiku is taken from that background. He has the enforcement experience. He is from the private sector as well. He's been to the public sector. So any aspect that you see under the PDP policy document, Atiku has an experience, so he's going to address them from the point of experience. PDP is no longer talking about rhetorics like other parties are.
Yeah.
And when you touch them, they say, I was the governor of so. That is no longer the thing. Let us see.
Let's hear from your colleague here, Charles, and then get more of maybe add more to what she said. We're looking at these aspects one by one and then see how Atiku is going to really address it, or PDP generally is going to address it, given its own campaigns at the moment. You know, Frank talked about education a little bit from an impulse from my colleague talking about out-of-school children. And that goes beyond, education in Nigeria goes beyond that. You know, that's the major issue, really, because when we look at the future, they are the building blocks for the future. Addressing that is very important, and we've seen how he's trying to do that. But it's not more than 48 hours or so that we came out of the ASU strike, for instance, and some other things like that. Decay in the, I mean, when you look at the bulk of the demands of ASU, all right, boils down to better education, you know, for Nigerians, wherever they are, especially at tertiary level. There's no doubt AUN has been playing a very big role in that regard, and that belongs to Atiku. But how differently would the PDP, for instance, or Atiku, to be specific, address this issue of incessant strike by ASU and some other institutions in this country? Well, if we catch them young at the out-of-school children, 7, 8, 9 years, what about those at the top?
Well, thank you very much. Before I go into that, and I can tell that specifically on page 44 of that policy document, you'll see Atiku's position on what he needs to do with education, respect to collaborating with the states, and then, of course, doing a whole lot. But like I said, before I go into that, there was a question you asked earlier where you alluded to the fact that talk is cheap. That individuals will say they will do this, they will do that, they will do this, they will do that. And at the end of the day, nothing is done, which means they were more on the part of theory. Now, when you look at the 1999, when you look back, and I'm happy that all of us here, of course, have come of age at that time, you discovered where we were under the military era before the emergence of PDP in 1999. And how the PDP administration for that 15 years, 16 years, was able to recreate the middle class that was at that time non-existent. A whole lot of policies were put in place to be able to address that. And our economy started growing to the extent that as far up to 2014, Nigeria had an economy that was growing more than any of the economies in Europe. That was because there were a lot of things that were done at that time. You need to go and check it. Up to 2014, our economy was better than any of the economies in Europe. And at that time, during that same period, we became the fastest growing economy in Africa. Beyond becoming the fastest growing economy in Africa, we also became the largest economy in Africa. But unfortunately, the issues of the last 7 years has possibly introduced some form of amnesia in the public space that individuals no longer remembered what happened in that 16 years of the PDP. Where before now you recall that when you are going to the bank, you possibly will want to go with your mat because you don't even know when you're going to come back. You saw what the PDP did with the issues of strengthening the banking sector, so that even when the bank goes under, you are not even afraid of losing your funds. Before now, no matter the amount you had, it was just about 50,000 naira that you're going to get, even if you had billions. You also recall the issue of a pension reform. Before that time, it was a very terrible state. The PDP was able to reform our pension system to the extent that we now started having contributory pension scheme. You also saw during the PDP era that idea of you going to night to queue because you want to make call to talk to your brothers in Lagos no longer happened. You talk to your brother right in your bedroom because the GSM was made available to you. Everybody tend to have forgotten what happened during that period. And of course, our unity started coming back again and individuals could go to wherever they liked. Unfortunately, because of certain mismanagement that have happened largely in the last 7 years, we have forgotten all of that and think that talk is cheap. And don't forget, Atiku was also part of that particular achievement, particularly in the first 8 years of the PDP administration. Now, coming to the direct question on the issues of education. Atiku, like I mentioned on page 44 of that particular document, talked about collaboration with the states. And he gave an example in one of the outing he had in Lagos, where he mentioned that before now, the regions did very well with respect to education. And he talked specifically about the North, the Southwest, and the Southeast. And if I mention the North in this instance, you're talking about Bayero University, Kano. If I talk about the Southwest, you're talking about the University of Ibadan. And of course, if I talk about the Southeast, you're talking about University of Nigeria and Soka. That these universities attracted a whole lot of persons from even beyond Africa because they were properly run and they were properly funded. Atiku says one of the major challenges of education today is poor funding. The reason why ASU has made strike a recurrent decimal in our academic calendar is because the school system is poorly funded. There are those who may wake up and begin to blame ASU without looking at the causative factors. And what are those causative factors? A situation whereby you ask a child to go to the farm to go and clear the grass and do everything possible, and you did not even equip him with any implement, either cutlass or hoe, and you expect that child to be able to grow beautiful crops. That is not going to happen. ASU says no. If you want us to train sound minds who are going to graduate and compete in the global community, we need to be able to have the requisite equipment to be able to train, to be able to impart knowledge. And some of those, number one, is the learning environment. The learning environment has become very, very unconducive for learning. Number one, you come into a classroom, no electricity, nothing like fan, no AC, the chairs are not there, even the board, whether it's black or white, is non-existent. You go into the library, the books are very much archaic, or that is even where the library exists. You go to the science lab, nothing like even ordinary Bunsen burner. You don't even have it, let alone having those other much more sophisticated equipment. And you want us to train engineers. ASU says no. So individuals are thinking that it's only about how much you need to pay. It's important that you also give them the right remuneration. Otherwise, what we call as when we're doing youth service, PP, private practice, we become, had become the order of the day. You see a teacher who is supposed to be in the classroom, he's very busy selling something in the marketplace, or he's in the farm, because why? Stomach infrastructure is very important. When the government have not been able to, through remuneration, provide the necessary stomach infrastructure by way of salary, Like they say, what's it called? Man no go die. The man will look for that thing that you need to feed. It's not enough to ask Nkechi not to go to Mama Yabo's house to feed. You must make sure that you have provided the food for Nkechi. Otherwise, the aroma in Mama Yabo's soup will attract Nkechi, and then he will navigate toward that direction as soon as the mother steps out of the house. And that is why you are saying that our lecturers are jumping out of Nigeria to look for where Mama Yabo has actually prepared food so that they will not die of hunger in Mama Nkechi's house. So if you want to stop ASU from going to strike, like Atiku said, he is going to ensure proper funding of the school system such that the learning environment becomes conducive, the pay becomes right, and of course, if that means an interface between the parents, the society, and the government, that will not be out of place. And very quickly, as I round up, there was an academic summit we did in Delta. And why did we do that? We said we needed to look how do we make this academic school system function properly. And one of our professors, Professor Moboari, asked a question. Say, who owns the child? That was the question. And he needed an answer. Is it the parents who biologically came together and produced the child and brought that child into the world? Or is it the society where this child is going to operate? Or is it the government who has the responsibility as provided for in Section 14, subsection 2, paragraph B of the 1999 Constitution to provide security and welfare for the people? And he says the three owns the child. Because when the child comes up, he's going to play in the society. That same child will be involved in government activities. And which means these three individuals, now represented by these, the parents, the society, need to play a role. And if they need to play a role, you don't just wake up because you just want to do politics and just say free education totally. And then the child, the mother and the parents provides the child and then gives way. Okay. And then the society is not doing anything. Atiku says he is going to engage these different sectors for the purpose of providing quality education and not quantitative education.
All right, I just know we're going to have to take a short break now. Our director has been signaling to us for us to take a short break. When we return from the break, we continue with the conversation.
What we face mostly now are flashes of cowardly attacks from the rump of groups that have been routed in one location or the other, moving to another to give the false impression that they are still strong. Our ultimate goal is to eliminate them altogether and restore total and lasting peace over every inch of the Nigerian soil. Sounding tall, but take it home. We are determined to ensure that every inch of the Nigerian soil is safe. That determination is there. The order has been given. But we shall continue to protect the lives and property of Nigerians and foreigners in our midst. We shall continue to work for the peace of the nation and deter elements that constitute threats to the people. We shall bear the full powers of the government to secure every inch of our land. We shall not rest until peace is fully restored to Nigeria.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who is a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have our three guests here with us in the studios discussing the PDP presidential campaign ahead of the 2023 general elections. I want to come back to Frank Shaibu. Frank Shaibu, yes, we talked about labors. We've already tried to address in part the issue around education, an aspect of it, and security, an aspect of it. But Nigerians would also say that, look, there are existential matters that we must confront, and they want to hear from the candidates or the political parties what they intend to do. The country has an issue with debt. We have an issue with debt and debt service and the quantum of debt. What is it that we're going to do with the debt overhang from next year? Because government is a continuum. It goes on and on. The country has a challenging issue with crude oil theft and how that impacts our foreign reserves. The country also has an issue still unresolved in terms of fuel subsidy. If you go by the budgetary preparations for 2023, subsidy is supposed to be removed in June or July next year, by which time we have a new administration. Are these matters that your candidate is fully conscious of, and what will be the response? I'm asking this question against the background because we saw what happened in 2015. In 2015, when the new administration came in on May 29, 2015, the APC then, the governing party, which it still is, said that it did not prepare the budget for the previous, for Parliament, and therefore it was going to have some issues with implementing those ideas that were not part of its original program. What is it that we can begin to take a look at in terms of these issues that I've highlighted, the debt overhang that we are faced with, fuel subsidy that's supposed to be taken off sometime in sometime in June or July next year, crude oil theft?
Interestingly, we have a good time between when elections will hold and when we will come to power by the grace of God in May 2023. So we have enough time to appraise the budget as prepared and submitted to the National Assembly by the presidency, by our policy team, and they are working on that day and night. But before taking a look at that question, I will still take you back to the issue of education, because we left. I needed to add some vibes to some of the things my colleagues have talked about, particularly as it relates to tertiary education. Atiku Abubakar, our presidential candidate, and for us members of his team, we've taken a look at that times without number. If you go back to the university you attended years ago, some of the lecture theaters you left in that university are the same lecture theaters that are still there till today. No improvement. So our carrying capacity, the carrying capacity of our universities across board, both from the private, state,
I can
and
tell you no, it's not the same. It's changed. It's
with
changed.
profound respect.
I'm speaking very frankly.
It's minimal. It's minimal. Our carrying capacity, I tell you, our carrying capacity, the carrying capacity of our universities between then and, in fact, as we speak today, oscillates between 350,000 to 400,000. Meanwhile, the number of students who write the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board every year is about 1.9 million students. Now, if you have a carrying capacity of about between 350 to 400,000 students, what happens to the difference of about 1.4 million children? So it takes you back.
Some of those candidates apply for polytechnics, colleges of education, and other forms of admission. When you have a number of candidates, 1.something million who will write the UTME,
yes.
Not all of them, of course, are aiming for the universities.
No.
Some are polytechnics, colleges of education.
I'm giving you. Yes. I'm giving. We know those who apply for these examinations. I'm talking to you from an informed position because I'm an educator. And I know and at least I know that I can tell you the statistics. A majority of them have become feeder situations to what we call educational tourism today. Down to the country as small as Benin Republic benefits from the overflow, particularly for students we cannot admit in Nigeria. So, and what that does to us, it affects our economy, affects what our earnings as a people. Now, if you juxtapose this and you place this on a scale of rectitude, you will discover that the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, as it is, the framework, the law that even established it, needs to be reviewed. Because a situation where you have a body that is meant to cater to the needs, particularly in the admission of children into our tertiary institutions, particularly our universities. And all that drives them is more about finance. Then there is a problem. A child pays 7,000 naira to buy a form for Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board examination, between 4, 5, 6, 7,000 naira. He pays 1,000 naira to print what they call the original results. And after that, when you and I applied, or when you applied to get admission to the university,
Charles, the problems are there. We're looking for solutions now. What is the PDP going to bring on board?
What we are going to bring on board, what we are going to bring on board, you see, you cannot talk about solutions without looking at even the issues itself. What we're going to bring on board is, it has a multiplier effect even on our security. Because a majority of the children, of the young people you see today, involved in banditry, involved in robbery, involved in drug abuse, involved in different vices today, are young people. If you look at the age bracket, you see that you have a lot of young people.
How do we curtail that?
How you curtail that is, look, there's going to be a handshake with the private sector. And there is no way we can run away from the fact that, look, as much as you incentivize what we call the education sector, you have to create an enabling environment where, look, the states are involved, local governments are involved. Of course, the education tax, which has been there over time, should be properly monitored and managed in a way that, look, even if you're going to introduce a school fee policy, particularly no matter how minimal, Atiku will, for now, take a look at the Students' Loans Board, revitalization, restructuring it, and look at how it can work appropriately to support the students' body. But then the private sector will be invited and incentivized in a way that they can support that sector. Because in the moment that is done, obviously it will cater to the needs of security as well and mitigate the issue of insecurity.
I raised the issue. I would like Dr. Baraka to also weigh in here before Charles also comes in, because we're getting pressed for time. I raised other challenging issues that we are faced with. Debt crisis.
Yes.
What's going to be our response? Crude oil theft, fuel subsidy. What should the electorate expect from the PDP in terms of dealing with these issues? I don't want to also, we know that there's also infrastructure, but I'm just talking about what is probably fairly obvious to us, because the consequences, we feel it virtually every day.
Well, if you look at what His Excellency said, Atiku Abubakar, way back in 2018, I told you he's a visionary leader, and Nigerians can attest to that. When he proffered a solution that revolved around NNPC, talking about selling off the refineries that are not working, that have become more or less like an albatross in the industry. Nigeria, the opposition party twisted it to decampaign the PDP that he was going to sell to his friends and so on. Eventually, this is what is going to happen. You can see they have already now privatized the NNPC. Atiku Abubakar was the first person to say, this is what we need to do. But it's not enough, again, to just make it a private company. We need to now sell off some shares. If you look at what is happening in Saudi Arabia, and their national oil company, they just sold a bit of it, and look at the amount of money they got.
Aramco.
Aramco, yes. Look at what Aramco has grown to be. We cannot be taking the old ideas of 20 years and say we want to work and see positive results after 40 years. We need to move with technology, move with time, move with innovation, and that is why I told you Atiku Abubakar is prepared. He has just finished his master's degree in the university at Cambridge. So when you go to university...
In which field?
International relations, because most of the problems bedeviling Nigeria are also related and interconnected with managing our international relations. Because we need to have very good international...
Has he written his dissertation?
He has written everything. He has received the certificate. You didn't tell me, I would have brought the copy to you.
No, I just, you are breaking the news. You are breaking the news to us. No, the reason why I was talking about
strategy studies.
And he has, yes.
No. What is the topic? What was his topic? That's what I was trying to get at.
I will get it to you if you want. No, or Atiku will answer it himself.
All right.
Yes, but let me tell you, what should concern Nigerians is that they should know they are going to have a visionary president. They should know they are going to have somebody with current solution, current innovation, new technology as it obtains. You cannot come with 20 years ago or 30 years ago idea. Atiku is going to work with the youths. Let me give you an example. As it revolves education, there's going to be a change in curriculum to work, a curriculum that will work for now. Atiku is the kind of president that will send the young ones to Mars, to anywhere, to come back with new technology, new information. So Nigeria's debt profile is going to have a lot to do with managing our international relations, because most of the money we got accrued from international financial institutions. And we need to have a good understanding so that either they reschedule, either they soften, either they forgive. And Atiku is a veteran in that area. If you may recall, he was part of those that worked so hard to make sure our loans were wiped away. The Paris Club loan, if you may recall, during Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's time.
2006.
Yes, he was the person. Atiku Abubakar was the person that supervised the economic team that got that waiver. And as a result, we have this MDG, the Millennium Development Goals, that came on board. Then with the NNPC and subsidy, once NNPC is properly managed and maybe we are able to do as Uramco did, we can sell a little bit of NNPC, get shares. Government has no business with business. And maybe we can see our sovereign wealth fund being returned, because we really need to plan for tomorrow.
Right,
and Atiku is the kind of president that is visionary and he plans for tomorrow. Nigerians should pray very hard to really have Atiku in that office, because honestly, he's going to make a perfect president for all Nigerians.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Finally, as a party shot, how, maybe in 60 seconds thereabout, how fastly deep is this message of PDP going down to the grassroots level?
Well, beyond the issue of the campaign rallies, like she mentioned in the course of this interaction, we're also continuing with interface with a number of our people in the different states. For every state we go to, you see interface with the leaders, and then where they are able to also understand what we're doing. And then very quickly on the issue of the debt burden, Atiku is going to take two-pronged approach. First of all, he's going to look at where we are, because what we are borrowed. It's not going to stop it from happening. All we need to do is how do we now reschedule it to be able to pay back so it does not become a burden. And then borrowing is not a crime. Atiku believes that if you must borrow for value. You don't borrow for consumption. And of course, there are individuals who are talking about production. Atiku is a producer. He has businesses that produce. He's not running consumption businesses. Those who are talking about production economy are very much involved in consumption businesses, unlike Atiku. And so somebody who is at that level will indeed not put pressure on our forex, the little that we're able to get. And so that's why we're convinced that going forward, he's going to be able to revive our economy, ensure that our debt burden does not become such that it weighs us down from being able to do a number of things that ordinarily we need to do. So PDP and Atiku and of course the whole leadership is very much determined to make a difference.
Okay, thank you so very much, Honorable Charles Anego. Honorable Charles Anego is People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate spokesman. We're very grateful for having you here.
Thanks for having me.
And the same also gratitude goes to, our friend here, Frank Shaibu, Special Assistant to Atiku Abubakar on Public Communication. It's our pleasure, too.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Dr. Baraka, we are very, very grateful. And thank you so much for the Baraka you brought in to this very program this morning. Dr. Baraka is a former Commissioner of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Kano State. She is a former Senior Special Assistant to the President of Agriculture and PDP stalwart for sure. She is also at the moment the Director of PDP Support Group. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Very good morning, Nigeria.
Up next on Good Morning Nigeria is sports.
Nigeria's Flamingos will take on the United States of America in the quarterfinals of the Under-17 Women's World Cup in India. The pairing was confirmed after the USA thrashed Morocco 4-0 in their final Group A game to finish top on Monday. It is the American second win of the World Cup after winning one and drawing one of their two opening group fixtures. Earlier on Monday, the Flamingos booked their place in the last 8 following a hard-fought 2-1 win against Chile in their last Group B tie. Goals from skipper Blessing Emmanuel and Bisola Musaku secured Flamingos' second win of the tournament, while Chile were awarded a late penalty, which was just a consolation goal. Germany, who finished ahead of the Flamingos in Group B, will take on Group A runners-up Brazil in the knockout round. Real Madrid and France forward Karim Benzema has won the Ballon d'Or awarded to the best footballer of the year for the first time. Benzema scored 44 goals in 46 games as he helped Real win the Champions League and La Liga in 2021-2022. Bayern Munich's Sadio Mane, who was at Liverpool in 2021-2022, was second ahead of Manchester City's Kevin De Bruyne. Super Falcons of Nigeria and Barcelona striker Aizatu Shola finished in 16th place in the final 20 shortlist of the 2022 Women's Ballon d'Or Award. Her Barcelona teammate Alexia Putellas emerged the winner of the Women's Ballon d'Or Award for the second year running.
All right, congratulations there to all the winners at the Ballon d'Or celebrations last night. Karim Benzema, best footballer of the year. Certainly, I mean, he's a French international and a captain currently of Real Madrid. That's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. We appreciate your being with us. Join us again tomorrow, same time, for a fresh package of the program. Take care of yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Yusuf Ndabus. Do have a great day. See you tomorrow.
those who speak on behalf of themselves and the country, is that they should have facts. I'm speaking now as Minister for Transport.
For you to become economically independent, you must have to curtail the level of importation of other people's products and services.
How rich you are, you can't bring certain vehicle into the country. There's no competitiveness within the state.
I am Claire Abilabu Abdulrazak. Thanks for joining me.
This is the network service of the NTA.
The Nigerian Under-17 girls, the Flamingos, are through to the quarterfinals of the 2022 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in India. That's good news. Hello and welcome. This is Sports Reel of the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I'm Badi Adeleye. As usual, we're reaching you from the beautiful Moshood Abiola National Stadium here in Abuja. I call it Mansa. On the reel today, we'll be bringing to you the latest from the 2022 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in India, with the Flamingos of Nigeria through to the last stage after recording a 2-1 win over Chile in their last group game Monday afternoon. And of course, we're going to talk about the not too impressive news about the three Nigerian teams in CAF competitions not advancing in their respective competitions. We're talking about Plateau United, Kwara United, and Rivers United, the three Uniteds. So we'll be talking about all these and many more on the show today. Once again, you're welcome. Right, let's get the show started. We begin with women's football, as the Nigerian Under-17 girls are through to the quarterfinals of the 2022 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in India. They did so by beating Chile 2-1 in their last group game on Monday afternoon. And of course, Nigeria's two goals came from Blessing Emmanuel and Bisola Musaku. And of course, it was really an interesting game, with Coach Bankole Oluwokere's girls impressing again following the victory they had over New Zealand.
All bobbing around once again. It's on the edge of the area and driven through the goalkeeper. It's the captain Emmanuel that puts Nigeria in front. He found the space to find the bottom corner and fire it in beyond Catalina Alvarez.
Super Falcon Show, sponsored by